If you were to describe your 2021 in a series of words and emotions and thoughts, how would you describe your 2021? Be intentional, be thoughtful so that, again, we don't repeat mistakes. We don't repeat lessons. So we don't go into the next year with the same level of emotional health or emotional intelligence that we had before. Let's learn and grow and change and evolve our emotional intelligence and emotional health and our spiritual health and our physical health and all the different aspects that make us who we are, that whole person. Let's be intentional at learning those lessons from the previous year so that we can grow into that next year so that we're different, we're better, we're improved, we're better than we were the previous day, the previous month, the previous quarter, the previous year. What is going on, EQ gangsters? So, episode 202, y'all. Never thought that I would be this far down the podcasting journey, when I started. Just had no idea that it was going to be this. Yeah, I just had no idea. So, I'm just so thankful for you all for being a part of my journey and letting me be a part of your journey, your emotional growth journey. And as always, thank you for sharing, subscribing, and rating, reviewing our podcast, our YouTube channel, depending on where you consume content. Maybe you follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Thank you again for your support, your encouragement, and your stories of your own personal growth journey as well. That encourages me, hopefully, as much as I'm able to encourage you with sharing my lessons and failures and stories and stuff as well. So today's episode, we're going to be going over an emotional intelligence inventory. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you're going to see me looking down. I'm looking at my notes just so I don't miss anything. If you're listening on the podcast, obviously not going to impact you at all. So what is your emotional intelligence inventory of 2021? Now, I'll tell you, for those of y'all that may be listening to this at the gym, driving in your car, that kind of thing, this may be an episode that you're going to want to either go back through again, when you're at your desk or in your office, so you can take notes, write down some of these questions. Some of these questions I feel like can provide some really good insights into making some new discoveries about yourself. Some things that maybe you didn't know about yourself that can really help you in your own growth journey, maybe with your journaling as well. So when you get a chance, or maybe while you're listening, obviously not when you're driving, but when you're listening, if you want to pause, write down the question, whatever. But again, I encourage you to do this. So it's going to be that kind of episode where I'm going to have a lot of questions. And I don't normally like to give a myriad of questions in one shot, because it's some of the deeper and the more impactful the question, when you have multiple of those questions, I call them high quality questions, in one sitting, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, it's just, my brain shuts down. It's overwhelming. Again, I'm just giving you the warno, the heads up, the frago for my military folks out there, that this is going to be one of those episodes where it's going to be quite a few of those deep, introspective, reflective questions. Again, not to overwhelm you, just so that you can copy them down and reflect on them sometime, hopefully before the new year or around the new year time frame, so that you can learn as much as you can and maximize your lessons from 2021 and to take them into 2022 with you. This episode, check this out, y'all. This episode is sponsored by the Lima Charlie Network. Some of y'all have heard a couple of my episodes where I've mentioned the Lima Charlie Network. Our mission is to empower others to reach new heights in leadership, self-development, and communication by connecting our audience with a network of podcasters and thought leaders focused on sharing tools for impactful improvement. The Lima Charlie Network is comprised of the following military, veteran, or active duty podcasters, like the Llama Lounge Leadership Podcast, the Shadows and Rise from the Shadows podcast, Beyond the Rut podcast, Hero Front podcast, and the Power of Investing in People podcast. And I think we even have one more that I'm missing, but it's a number of military, either active duty or veteran military podcasters that have kind of joined together to learn and grow from each other. So anyway, it's a neat group of leaders and influencers that I'm blessed to be a part of. And you can get more information about the Lima Charlie Network at limacharlienetwork.com for more info. Again, that's limacharlienetwork.com. All right, let's jump into it. How was your 2021? Again, if you're watching on YouTube, I am looking at my notes here, y'all. How was it? How was your 2021? If you could maybe write down, and this would be great, maybe this would be a great episode to actually journal. Literally sit down at your desk, home, office, your favorite thinking chair with your favorite pen in your favorite outfit, maybe your favorite pajamas, and write down your answers while I'm asking them. Again, after each question, just pause the podcast, pause the YouTube channel, and boom, go through and answer the questions. If you were to describe your 2021 in a series of words and emotions and thoughts, how would you describe your 2021? Be intentional, be thoughtful, so that, again, we don't repeat mistakes, we don't repeat lessons, so we don't go into the next year with the same level of emotional health or emotional intelligence that we had before. Let's learn and grow and change and evolve our emotional intelligence and emotional health, and our spiritual health, and our physical health, and all the different aspects that make us who we are, that whole person. Let's be intentional at learning those lessons from the previous year so that we can grow into that next year, so that we're different, we're better, we're improved, we're better than we were the previous day, the previous month, the previous quarter, the previous year. So how would you describe 2021? Emotions, words, thoughts, just describe it. What were some of the emotional trends that you felt throughout 2021? Is there an emotion that you felt repeatedly throughout the year, or a set of emotions that you felt throughout the year? Either comfortable or uncomfortable emotions, pleasant or unpleasant emotions. Again, emotions aren't right or wrong. They're not good or bad. It's data. They're information. It's our dashboard. Now we're wanting to learn and grow on how to read our emotional balance sheet, our emotional profit and loss statement, our emotional dashboard more effectively. So what are those trends, those emotional trends that you may recognize from 2021? What emotions come to mind when you think of 2021? How did you do emotionally this past year of 2021? How did you do emotionally? Rate yourself on a scale from 1 to 10. 10 being you crushed it, you rocked it, you did amazing. 1, you were lower than a pregnant ant and you were sucking like a Kirby vacuum. You didn't do very well. Where would you put yourself on that emotional scale? And know, regardless of whether you give yourself a 3, you give yourself a 7 or a 9 or a 10, that you can grow. That's what I love about emotional intelligence. You can grow it. You can change it. It's not a fixed number unless you have a fixed mindset. You can grow and change your emotional health and your emotional intelligence. Next question. How did you grow emotionally this past year? How did you grow emotionally this past year? In what areas did you grow emotionally in this past year? What areas did you grow emotionally in? Was there anything you didn't allow yourself to process this year? That's a massive question, y'all. Massive. Is there anything from 2021 that you did not allow yourself to process? Any emotional injuries? Write those down. List those all of them. List all of them you can think of. Anything that you didn't allow yourself to process. Maybe, and again, it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. It could have been a great thing, a positive thing, a promotion, a job change, a move. It could have been a great thing that you're looking forward to and excited about, but you didn't allow yourself to process it emotionally. Write down those pleasant and unpleasant maybe events or experiences that you did not allow yourself to process. You don't want to go into next year with a whole list of things that you did not allow yourself to process from the previous year. Then you'll be going into the new year with emotional baggage, and it will affect you and impact you in ways that you don't even know. You'll be heavier. It'll be like an emotional weight. And here's the thing, just like my weight, right? So I just like I said in the last episode, I've gained some weight back that I lost. And here's the thing is I don't even realize it. You don't even realize the weight, the extra weight that you're carrying that's unhealthy because you get used to it. We get used to our own dysfunction. We are so good at surviving all our survival mechanisms and coping mechanisms, healthy or unhealthy, productive or unproductive, that we don't even realize that we're functional alcoholics, right? And again, I'm using that as an analogy. We're functioning emotional alcoholics, for example, right? We're functioning emotionally dysfunctional people, but we get used. So, hey, I'm fine. Hey, I don't have any emotional issues. Guarantee you do. You're just not aware of it because we're all so great at surviving and coping. So write down a list of all the areas that you have not allowed yourself to process. Again, positive, pleasant and unpleasant, or comfortable and uncomfortable. And then make sure, I want to encourage you to set aside some time to allow yourself to process emotionally those events. Otherwise, they'll be, if you go back through maybe, 15 to 20 episodes ago, those emotional knots. You don't want to come into 2022 with a whole bunch of emotional knots that you're not even aware of. When my wife, every now and then, she'll give me like a neck massage or a shoulder massage, and like she'll find a knot. I'm like, oh man, didn't even know it was there. Had no idea that emotional knot was there, and she found it. That's the same thing. We don't even know where all of our little emotional knots are until we do some intentional reflection. So anyway, and I encourage you guys, I don't know if this is on my list or not, but I just want to encourage you, please start an emotional fitness program for 2022. Please start an emotional fitness program. It can, we can be a part of that with our emotionalgangster.com, with our EQ Mafia, our EQgangster.com and our EQ Mafia. That can be a part of your emotional fitness program, but it doesn't have to. Just, I've got an episode I'll probably be doing. I've done it on a number of other episodes, podcasts that I've been on. Go Aped. I've got a whole process for that that I think I'm going to do in a whole separate episode on my podcast about. That can be a part of your emotional fitness program. Anyway, it doesn't have to be my stuff, but I just encourage you to start an emotional fitness program in 2022, a consistent one, not sporadic, not once a quarter, but a consistent one so that you can be in tip-top shape emotionally and see how it impacts every single area of your life. Next one, biggest accomplishment for the year. What was your biggest accomplishment in 2021? What were you most proud of that you did in 2021? Take some time, again, to celebrate that, document that, journal that. What were the emotions around that event, surrounding that event, or that experience, that activity, whatever? What did you learn about yourself last year, this past year? What did you learn about yourself? Take some time to reflect. What were maybe some of the areas, maybe there were aspects of you that got exposed that were maybe not the most pleasant aspects about yourself. Maybe in conflict and adversity reveals our emotional intelligence. Conflict and adversity reveal our emotional intelligence. So what did you learn about yourself? And then what were the good things? What were some pleasant things, some great things that you learned about yourself? Celebrate again, be aware of those areas that you can work on, and what were some areas that you rocked, that you did great, that you performed your best at. Some traits, some qualities, some characteristics. Share, journal, all of that stuff. What did you learn about God this past year? What did you learn about God? What did you learn about each of your family members? Your spouse, if you're married, each one of your children, if you have children. What did you learn about each of your family members? What did you learn about each of your friends? Maybe make a list of your inner circle, the folks that are in your tight circle, your social network, but like homies, not Facebook friends, but like actual people that you spent time with this past year. What did you learn about each of them? And of that list of your friends that you learned things about, let them know. If it's positive, let them know. Take 30 seconds, take 5 minutes to send them a thank you card or a note, an email, a text, DM them, PM them, let them know, hey, this is doing some reflection for this year, and I just want to let you know, man, this is something I observed about you, and I just want to thank you for this gift that you bring to the world. Boom, something like that. I guarantee you it'll make them feel amazing, and it'll make you feel better as well, doing that act of kindness. What insights or epiphanies did you glean this past year? Did you learn this past year? What insights or epiphanies did you learn this past year? What were some of the resources or situations that led you to grow the most this past year? Was there a particular podcast or podcasts that you listened to, or YouTube channels, or books that you read? Document, capture some of those resources that were really helpful. Maybe you want to carry that into next year. Maybe you have a list like, okay, well, this book or this podcast, was not super helpful. Let me not carry that into this next year. So what resources or situations led to your growth? Or people also, what people? Maybe there were some friends. Maybe you had a counselor or counselors or coaches that led to your growth this past year. Write those down, capture those. Again, so that's maybe something you want to continue next year. What area of your emotional intelligence are you wanting to grow in this coming year? What areas? So I've got access to an emotional intelligence assessment. Many of you all know, if you've been following my podcast, it's called the EQI 2.0 assessment. I've actually, again, if you're on YouTube, you'll see me pick up this book here. It's an excellent resource, and there are 15 different areas that this assessment assesses in the area of emotional intelligence. And I'm just going to read them off to you. Maybe pick one or two that you want to work on this year. There's going to be 5 main categories of emotional intelligence I'm going to talk about, just I want to mention, and then there's 15 subscales or sub-elements that make up those 5 main areas. So there's really 3 in each of the 5 main areas is how it's broken down. So I'm going to start with the big 5. Self-perception. So these are all aspects of emotional intelligence that you may want to add to your list of things you want to work on in 2022 as part of your emotional fitness program. Self-perception, self-expression, interpersonal, decision-making, and stress management. What makes this assessment and model different than many other emotional intelligence models are those last 2 that I mentioned, because it's specific for leaders: stress management and decision making. Now, obviously, it applies to everybody, definitely, especially leaders. So in the self-perception category, or composite is the term that they use, there are 3 things that make up 3 aspects of emotional intelligence that make up that make up self-perception. One is self-regard, self-actualization, emotional self-awareness. Next one in self-expression, the 3 areas that make up self-expression: emotional expression, assertiveness, and independence. In the interpersonal category, the 3 elements that make up the interpersonal category are interpersonal relationships, empathy, and social responsibility. In the decision-making composite, the 3 areas that make up decision-making: problem solving, reality testing, and impulse control. And in the stress management composite, the three that make up stress management are flexibility, stress tolerance, and optimism. Flexibility, stress tolerance, and optimism. Were there any of those three that jumped out at you any of those 15 that jumped out at you that you may want to spend some time on? And they don't have to be in the same composite. You may want to work on self-actualization in the self-perception composite, and maybe you want to work on empathy in the interpersonal composite. Again, that's your call. Or maybe if you have a coach, ask your coach and see what they think. But these are phenomenal areas to, again, be aware of and add one or two to your list of things that you want to work on for your emotional fitness program in 2022. And at some point, I will do an episode where I go into a deep dive defining and explaining all of those areas. And in fact, as part of the EQ Mafia, I'm doing a whole series in the EQ Mafia on each of those different areas. And that'll be available for the folks in the EQ Mafia. And also, I think, that'll do the EQ Boss coaching program. So you guys know, maybe you don't know, I've got three kind of areas. So the EQGangster.com, the podcast, YouTube channel, Instagram, social media and stuff, that's all outward facing. That's for everybody. The EQ Mafia is specifically for members, obviously, that join the EQ Mafia. It's our membership program that we teach, and we kind of, as a cohort, as a community, grow our emotional intelligence together as part of the emotional fitness program and emotional fitness program. And then the EQ Boss program is my coaching program, where I coach leaders using this EQI assessment. So those are the kind of the three things that my wife and I have created for us in this EQ space, this emotional intelligence space. All right. So what area of EQ are you wanting to grow in 2022? And finally, what are some new behaviors that you're wanting to take into this next year? What are some new behaviors that you're wanting to, and you can look at it two different ways, right? What are some behaviors that you're wanting to stop and not take into next year? What are some new behaviors that you're wanting to start and take into next year? Now, I asked that question, but there's a lot behind that question. You can't just take, I want to take these three new behaviors into the next year. It's not that easy. It takes emotional work to figure out what behaviors you want to stop doing, what behaviors you want to start doing. Excuse me. And a great way to do that is to do a behavior audit, do a behavior inventory. What are some of your habits, a habit inventory or habit audit that serve you, that are productive, healthy, and serve you, and then identify those that don't. What are some habits, behaviors that are not productive, not healthy, and don't serve you? And then again, this is a whole exercise, and I've got some podcast episodes about this. The episode on the buckets is a great one to go through. That's probably within the last 20 or 30 episodes. It's called something about 3 buckets. It's remember about buckets. That episode would help with this particular conversation here, because you have to identify the emotions, right? So you've got the behaviors. Again, if you're on YouTube, you can kind of see what I'm doing with my hands here. There are, behind every behavior, underneath every behavior, is a series of emotions and stories, narrative, and beliefs that all make up and impact what the behavior is. Another way I like to do it is, if you think about a punch, I'm punching the screen right now. If you imagine the fist is the behavior, is the outcome, is the action. Well, behind that fist is a wrist of emotions and feelings. It's a forearm of stories and narratives. It's a bicep and tricep and shoulder of beliefs that all lead to that punch that is either a healthy, productive punch that you want to do that is healthy, safe, and productive, or an unhealthy or unsafe or unproductive punch that is leading to not good outcomes. So when people just say, well, just change this behavior. Well, it's not that easy, especially if you've been doing that behavior or that habit for a long time. There's a lot that goes behind a habit or behavior. And it's not just that easy. One I love hearing, there's a lot of type A people, cholerics and dominant personalities. For those of you that study the DISC model, Personality Plus, it's called a choleric. I hear a lot of cholerics just say, well, just stop doing that and just start doing this. Just believe in yourself. Just stop beating yourself up. Oh, well, man, that's genius. Thank you. I appreciate that. Right? It's not that easy. For me, anyway, I'll just speak for myself. Maybe for the cholerics and the dominant personalities, maybe it is that easy. It is not that easy for a lot of other types of folks. So, and that takes work. It takes effort. It takes time. And I just want to tell you guys, you are worth it. You are worth being your best self, y'all. You are worth being your most emotionally healthy self. Your being healthy emotionally is going to impact you spiritually. It's going to impact you mentally. It's going to impact you physically. It's going to impact you socially. It's going to impact you financially. It literally, our emotional health impacts every single area of your life. Let's make 2022, let's make this next year one of the healthiest, emotionally healthy years we've ever had, to set us up for the rest of our lives. So, and also, as I say frequently, emotionally healthy people help heal other people emotionally. So be sure to check out, remember what I said earlier at the beginning, LimaCharlieNetwork.com. Check that out. Also check out EQGangster.com for a couple great resources and websites for you all. And if there's any way that we can help you out, that I can help you out, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you for rating, reviewing, subscribing, sharing an episode maybe that really impacted you a lot. Share it with on social media. Maybe share it with a couple of your friends. Man, my goal, I want to have as many leaders become emotionally healthy as possible, this next year. And I'm going to lay out, I still have to do my goal setting session and stuff too for this coming year as well, for my podcast, for our business, for everything. So, but man, emotionally healthy leaders lead to emotionally healthy cultures and organizations, which lead to amazing outcomes, results, and impact.